So, hi guys. Hi Luca, Anna Julia. Beautiful to have you. Yeah, so we decided, Luca and Anna Julia and me, to do this interview to introduce these two beautiful human beings to Empower House Group. We have so many interesting, wonderful people, and it's, I think, really about time that we meet each other and kind of understand what we do, because everybody's doing something so amazing, and this way we can really learn about each other. So Anna Julia and Luca are classical musicians. Luca is playing flute as a main instrument. I will be really interesting what other instrument you're playing. And Anna Julia, violin, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they are doing classical music professionally. So their favorite question is, what do you do for living? So yeah, I have always been interested in the lives of people who really kind of professionally do classical music. So I would love to hear from you. First of all, how long you're doing this and how do you decide to commit your life to classical music, this lifestyle?
Well, these things like, classical music very often runs in the family. And it was kind of the same for us also. Both our parents are also musicians. Maybe a bit in a different field. My parents were more in the music pedagogics, and more connected to core singing. Whereas Anna Julia's parents were more performers. But I think we were both exposed to classical music from early age on, and also as a result of this, and by our maybe natural tendency, developed a profound interest in classical music quite early in our childhood, right?
Something like that.
So then both of your parents are classical musicians.
Yes.
So I guess I'm trying to imagine what it looks like to grow up in the family of classical musicians. How does it look like? I understand that there is really like very strict practicing routine that goes on. So have you been grown up with the music being played? Was it interesting? Was it repetitive? What did it look like to kind of wake up as a kid and you have your parent maybe practicing music? How did it look like at that age?
Well, that's exactly the thing. And if I connect it to the previous question, it's like, it's a different lifestyle, but it's the only one you know as a child. So like for me, it was even when I was deciding about what to do in my life, I was like, yeah, but I have no idea how normal people live. Like I only know the musician way of life. So how do I do it? But it's a bit different because the work is never finished. So there's no work days or free days. It's like all one big work day, like from morning till evening. Like it's just, but it's not a big problem because it's something you love to do. So it's whenever you have the energy and inspiration, you just take it and go with it and work on it. So yeah, it was a lot of music in our household when I was a child. And actually I developed a funny thing, which is like a selective hearing, where I couldn't tell if there's music or not being played. Like,
wow.
Yeah, it's just, because it's always there, always present. So if somebody asked me like, is your father practicing? And I was like, I have no idea. It's just so much in the environment. Yeah. But it's nice,
Of course, it's different, in different stages of life. It looks different to be a musician, because when you're a kid, anyway you do, like you have some interests, you play sports, maybe you play music instrument in music school, next to school, of course. So it's I remember it was very something completely normal for me to go to music school. Nobody from my parents, they didn't like encourage me into certain to choose a certain instrument. I chose it by my preference. It was like was the most appealing sound for me was the flute. And also there was this girl in my in my school class I liked really much, and she was also playing flute. So I thought maybe maybe we can like get connected more if I play flute.
Oh
also.
my God. I thought there's some profound decisions here being made. How you choose instrument? No, it was a girl. So I play what we play.
But the funny thing is, she stopped playing there for maybe 2-3 years, and I ended up.
You're stuck now. I have to play this.
Yeah. Oh no. No, but it's life gives you these funny reasons why you choose something, but then on the long run you see that it was the right decision. You just needed a little push by the universe.
Yeah.
And it's very much different. When you're a kid, you just go to school, then you have your free time, and in your free time you have some interests also. I also did other things. We both did.
Yeah, like kids go to sports and whatever, and what's your hobbies? It's the most common question amongst kids, and everybody just says what they do, and you do music. That's it. Like it's not that crazy of a.
Yeah, but we also did other stuff. I mean, you did karate, I did judo, Then later I played baseball a little bit, It was not so exclusive back then, like in the childhood, because also when you're a kid, you have to practice maybe half an hour a day when you start, and then maybe you go to 1 hour later, towards the end of the primary music school period. But of course, then in the secondary school, then it gets more demanding in ways of hours of practicing. I remember I was really, by then I was really obsessed, almost like really obsessed with music and with flute, and I used to practice maybe for 4.5, sometimes even 5 hours a day. And this is next to the general secondary school, like gymnasium.
So 5 hours a day at which age? Like 14, 15 years of age, kind of like that.
Around there,
yeah.
Wow. So this is actually really interesting to me, that when you say I was obsessed and then you would practice for 5 hours, how does it work? What do you feel when you say obsessed? What did you feel you were kind of going towards? Playing a certain piece without mistakes, or is it really enjoying in the sound of it, or kind of getting the tone? What was it that you were obsessed for 5 hours?
Yeah, it was a profound fascination by the sound and by this process. It's playing music is actually quite physical. It's in case of flutes, you are breathing a lot, like breathing in, breathing out, and using the air to make sound. So it's, for me, this is it brings a really pleasurable sensation in the body when you do it good. If it's not so good, then it's not so pleasurable. So if you want to do it good, you have to be in form, like in shape. You have to practice enough. But when I remember those days in secondary school, when I really practiced a lot, I didn't practice so smart back then, because I was still learning and trying to understand how the flute works and how I should use my body to, because it's a big part of the in case of flute, big part of the instrument is actually the human body. Flute is just a like sort of extension of this. So you have to work with yourself a lot. But back then I didn't really, think and feel exactly like I do now, after all these years. So these were like 4 hours of trying to jump over the wall, like again
Mindless
and again,
repetition,
like
just
just
like blah, 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 blah.
knocking yourself on the not only like this, of course you develop, of course you progress, but it's was not the same quality of practice like that.
Mhm.
I
Wow.
was lazier in the middle school. I didn't practice as much as him.
Uh-huh.
I found it really hard to balance the like this classical gymnasium and then like traveling to the capital and doing also the music there. It was a lot for a girl of that age. Like, so everything was half-assed.
Oh.
It was just like, okay, I got the middle grade, great, perfect. I'm not failing anything. It's fine. But violin was, I had this luck with my professor. She was very chill and like she made us feel like we don't have to work so hard and like it's nothing. Oh, just do a little bit of this, just do a little bit of that, and it's gonna come along. And don't worry. And I always felt like I'm not really doing anything, like I'm being extremely lazy. But when I look back, I played so many pieces and I played so many little concerts and I went to a lot of competitions. So I think it wasn't like I didn't work, but I mean, I didn't practice 4 hours a day either. So,
So how much did you practice at that age, 14?
I think as far as I remember, my goal was to get to 2 hours daily.
Mm.
I remember that number very distinctly because I had just like 10 more minutes and I'm there and then I can stop, like, and then I can go to sleep and like.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is so interesting. Actually, I would like to hear what is the amount of practice kind of throughout your life. So it's about 5 hours for Luca, 2 hours for you at about 14, 15. And then does it get more, or at some point you actually stabilize and stay at the same level of practice?
Well, for me, it's it got a bit. So I practiced a bit more, even maybe at some points in the studies, because there's really a lot of material that you have to go through, a lot of pieces you have to learn, and also a lot of technique that you have to develop. Practicing music in the academic level is a lot about repetition, because there are certain movements, like fine movements, that you have to train. It's not just about understanding, it's also about this repetitive practice of moving. For example, in flute, have to, there are certain combinations and you have to repeat this slowly for many times until the fingers learn to do it exactly right, and then you have to
Speed it up.
yeah, and then more, and then finally you're there and you can play one part of the piece.
Yeah. But the next day it's not there again, so
Yeah,
you have to start
then
over.
again. So
That's
for
so
me,
interesting.
yeah, so for me it was I used to practice maybe, let's say 5 or most 6 hours in time of my studies, but this was rarely, really. This was maybe before the diploma. It was maybe so much. Otherwise 4 is more or less, I think, 4 hours a day of really like concentrated work with the instrument is more or less the maximum that you can do and use well. If you practice more, maybe you could squeeze 5 hours out of the day, but then it's 5 hours and then that's it. You can only do this because you have to you have to take in consideration that practicing for 4 hours does not mean 4 hours of time.
It's 8 hours
yeah,
of
it's
time,
8 hours
actually.
of time, because you have
Oh,
to rest.
wow.
You
What do you
practice,
mean?
and
How?
then you practice, and then you have to make a break to recover, because the muscles get tense and tired.
Yeah,
They
you
have
can
to-
develop
yeah,
really bad injuries, like
if you
and big
overdo it,
issues.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you are practicing for an hour, then kind of resting for an hour,
Yeah.
and like 4 times like that.
Yeah, also doing some exercises in between, maybe some yoga, some
Or studying the score and listening to recording.
yeah, or going to sleep a bit.
Because that's not considered practicing. If you're studying the score, I mean, you're actually practicing, but you're not. We consider the physical part where you're with the instrument practicing. So there's a lot of reason around it. Yeah, I did.
I had no
I
idea.
actually had the stupid practicing phase in the beginning of my studies, where I just practiced the entire day, and I did the mistake of not taking enough breaks. So I did develop an injury, which was a wake-up call. And I'm so happy it happened early on, because I was just like, oh, okay, something in my system's not right. I gotta fix this. And then I think after a second or third, actually after third year of my studies, I started like thinking about practicing. How do I do it smart? Like, how do I do it the lazy way? What's the fastest way to the solutions? Like, and I started using my brain, which is really nice, because then
Wow. So when you say, like, I cannot even imagine you're playing violin, what would be an injury that you can kind of get when you are overplaying it?
My injury was in the left hand, which is holding the violin. It's this position, which is very uncomfortable. It's quite common. It's like a tennis elbow, they call it,
Right.
But what I had is the muscles around here got so swollen that they pinched the nerve, and I couldn't feel my little finger.
Oh.
So, and I didn't notice any of it until I was just practicing one day, and this finger didn't want to do anything. So yeah, that's how it went.
Yeah, for both our instruments, it's they're two of the instruments that are maybe more prone to injuries, because they're asymmetrical. So the way you hold it is asymmetrical. It's not like clarinet or oboe you hold in the middle, but flute you have in the side. So it's always this sideways, and usually we develop problems here, and violinists are sideways also, but to the other side. So they also develop, problems in that area. Also, it's very important, to learn how you have to position your body in a way that you're not in your own way. So we had, like in Vienna, where I studied for most of the time, we also had some like subjects in the curriculum where we learned about these sort of things. Also, also how we should like correct some problems if we have them. This was very useful for me. There are certain methods, like Alexander technique is very common. That's been developed for actors, actually, like for theater actors, because they have to position themselves. If I make a change in my position, my sound, the sound of my voice changes really a lot, and this is the same. This is the same when I play the flute also.
Wow.
So it's very important, when you want to project the sound, you have to position your body in a proper way. But incidentally, this way of positioning the body is also the most ergonomic. So you don't get in trouble by playing in this position for a long time.
The problem that happens is when you're playing something technically difficult that you aren't there yet, when you're still studying, it's a lot of struggle, and you go in your head and you forget all about posture. So suddenly you find yourself being like completely like "Ugh."
Yeah.
And then, oh my God, why does everything hurt? Like, okay, I did it again. Like I was too much in my head, like just trying to get through a piece, and I didn't take care of my posture.
Right. I'm getting it a little bit like kind of when we read and you get really kind of engrossed into reading, you kind of start leaning and all of a sudden your eyes are so close to the text. And like, oh, okay, let me get a little, so kind of like that. Whoa,
Yeah.
this is so interesting. Well, like listening to the music, kind of having an awareness of the sound. We never think that this is such an intense physical activity. This is so precious to hear. I had no awareness at all about that because I was playing piano, and piano it's a little bit less. You say sit at least, yes, you can sit kind of uncomfortable. It's not like you're saying it's asymmetrical. Beautiful, beautiful. So, so many questions that I have. Okay, let's go into, I think what's really interesting to me is seriously how you chose the instruments. Like, what did you feel? Did you have like this aha moment? I hear this instrument and there's some sort of bond, or like, how did you know that flute is like so sounding magical, violin? How did you, both of you, one and then the other, how did you choose your instruments?
I'm still not sure. Really, I'm sorry to disappoint you. Like, I ended up playing violin by accident, kind of. Like my parents wanted to enroll me in music school, and I was eager to do it. Like, yeah, I will play music. And actually, my father is a cellist, so I was kind of. I mean, I think they thought I'll play cello. At least my father did, but he was on tour when I was enrolling to music school. So my mother took me there and they told her, oh, your daughter, she sings so well, so well in tune. We have a new violin teacher. You think she would be interested? And she asked me, do you want to play violin? And I was a small child. And I said, yeah, okay, why not? And that was it. And then like I kept on having this moment, like every, I don't know, let's say every 7 years, I would say, like, is this really the instrument I want to play? Like, and even now still, I'm like, what would my life be like if I chose another instrument? I'm not sure, but I don't think it matters that much, actually. I mean, it's a vessel to express myself. So, I get a lot of great pieces on this instrument to play, so it's fine, I can do music, I can share. It's
right.
Yeah, it's just an instrument. It's not such a deep connection for me. It's a way to express.
Yeah, I think it's the way of playing for different instruments is very different. In a way, for piano, for example, you have the keyboards, and you're pressing the keyboard, but you're not touching the string, for example.
Yes, it's indirect.
It's a sort of a very sophisticated machine. For string instruments, for example, you have the string and you are touching it. You are really touching it. With your left hand, and with the right hand, is this also this connection with the string by the bow.
And here as well, also, because you're touching the wood. There's a lot of vibration actually, which is nice.
And for wind instruments is this blowing sensation, breathing in, breathing out. Also for brass instruments. For me, it was very, very interesting when I was a small kid, before I entered the music school. I used to really enjoy playing with. There was a certain, like a lollipop when I was a kid, that when you started with, like, it was sort of like an instrument,
It's
like a whistle lollipop.
Like a whistle.
I remember those.
Yeah, you could pull it out and back in, and it changed the sound, and I really, really enjoyed that. I remember that distinctly, that this was really like great fun, and everybody was amazed by how well I could do it.
Yeah, I just stayed that long.
Yes.
But
Of course.
I love these stories. Like Anna Julia chose the violin because I don't know why the professor was there. Luca chose flute because the girl was playing flute.
And
It's
the
like
lollipop.
random. And lollipop because it's sweet.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, but
I love it.
interesting thing was when the time came for me to to choose the instrument. It was like I really liked the South American this Machu Picchu kind of stuff, this
A pan flute, right?
yeah, the ethnic flutes from there,
Uh-huh.
Kena and yeah.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. I saw a group of musicians from South America. They used to come to my hometown, and they would play in the streets. And I bought a cassette, and I listened to it really a lot. But of course, this is not possible to learn in a music school in Slovenia.
Mhm.
So this was also one of the like motivators for me to choose flute, because that was the closest
Mhm.
option to that sound.
Mm. Yeah, beautiful. Okay, I got it now. It's something interesting you said. I would like to kind of build on and go a little deeper on that. You said, Anna Julia, that it doesn't at the end of the day really matter which instrument you chose, because no matter what it is, you are expressing yourself. So I'm kind of trying to understand really that deep love for music. What is it that you are kind of really feeling that is most precious about being a professional musician? Is it like this expressing yourself, or would it be actually listening to the music piece that you love so much, or is it enjoying the sound of it yourself, or to which extent is it you loving it, to which extent it is like physical sensations, like Lucas says, of the air, and to which extent it's kind of sharing it with others? What is it that you love the most in this
Yeah,
whole
I
experience?
think this particular thing is different for each musician. Like they have the everything you mentioned, like each of the musicians will tell another thing, but for me it's actually the exchange with the public. So if I could, I would just play a concert every day. Like in perfect world, a concert every day, no practicing, nothing, just like yeah, I mean, yeah, it's hard to like, there's a really nice explanation of what happens when someone's on the stage. I think you told me about it, like there's an energetic bond created from the musician playing into the whole, like with each of the listeners, he creates a little golden string and like sends the energy, and they all collectively send it back then. So yeah,
for me it has to do with attention. Everybody in the music hall gives attention to what's happening on stage, so it all collects there, and then there's this really deep concentration by the musician who is playing, or musicians if there are several. And if they do it right, they open for, let's say, for a blessing from above. And then this all, this mass of energy and light, flows back to each of the listeners, like the whole package, It's sort of it's really magical, to be on stage and to receive all this energy, and then you sort of like cook it into a final product, and then you offer it back, and everybody gets the whole package. Like everybody gives just their part, but they get like it's like the fish at the wedding with Christ, when he broke the bread and the like when he multiplied the food. It feels very much like that, you know.
For me, it's like cooking a big pot of stew, and
Yeah.
every person brings like one little fruit, and you just throw it all together, and
Yeah.
it's an amazing dish in the end.
Yeah, and everybody really enjoys it. It's so
Yeah.
nice.
But it's really crazy. It's hard to describe what happens on stage when you like open up for this, because it's like I feel exactly what the audience as a whole wants to hear. So the performance is many times very different from what we practice, because you just get this feeling like, oh, this place needs more calm, more quiet, more like, they really want to. Or sometimes you have audience who just wants it like to go really fast and like super energetic, and you suddenly get this surge of energy, not knowing where it's coming from, and you play the fastest you ever played. It's like, oh, I just gotta do it for them, you know. It's so amazing. It's not
Wow.
yourself anymore, it's a product of everything. So it's really nice.
Wow. So in a way, you are kind of taken by the whole process, almost like in a type of trance, if I'm understanding well.
Yeah, sort of like a
Yeah.
medium, you know.
Yeah,
You offer yourself as the medium for this, you know,
yeah.
for this process to happen.
But then
Wow.
you have to keep that little part of yourself like very chill and in your mind, like to actually succeed from beginning till the end, like to play everything. So it's like
Yeah.
it's the balance between like completely letting go and like just allowing everything to come, and like having this little point of focus where you just know exactly what's happening in the music. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, you have to be really very present when you play, because if you lose this, you know, presence, then stuff starts to happen, you know.
Yeah.
Like technically it's it's quite a demanding process, so you have to be really, you know, in it. But you know, it's
Yeah, but when you're too much in it, then something will happen for sure again.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
just the right
It's like,
amount.
I think there's a story with Buddha, Gautama, you know, like wanting to cross a river, and it was too, you know, too wide, so he found a ferry, and then ferry, it's ferry, right? The boat.
The boat,
Yeah.
it's scary.
So this guy, you know, takes him to the other side, and it takes a long time. So he pulls out, I think, yeah, it was like, he pulls out they start talking. Yeah, it's like that. Yeah, they start talking, and this guy, you know, asks him, how is this, you know, like, how does the attention has to be in meditation, for example? Huh? And he said, he said to him, yeah, it has to be like with the instrument, you know, when you're tuning it, you know, if you stretch the string too much, it breaks. And if you don't stretch it enough, then it doesn't sound, you know. So it's this, always this process of finding just the right, you know, tension. Yeah.
Great.
And this tension is not just your tension and your tension with instrument, like Anna Julia said before. When you play a concert for audience, it's always a process with the audience. Very often it happens that with the first piece, they're not yet there, you know, the balance has not been established. And it's sort of like, you know, like touching, you know, like feeling each other, what, you know, what needs to be adjusted. And then with every next piece, it gets more balanced. And then suddenly, you know, there's this ecstasy of enjoying the moment.
Oh, right. Okay, so here, actually, of course, I love classical music, and I've been in millions of concerts. That's one of my favorite things to do, especially when it's like a symphony orchestra. It's like that. So my question here is about this interaction between musicians and the audience. From my point of view, there is obviously much less knowing of the technicalities of the piece, where the piece is going and all this. Do you feel as musicians the difference between the audience, who is maybe more knowledgeable about what the piece is going to be like, so that they're kind of like fine interacting with you? For example, if somebody's playing Brahms concert, I know like almost every note. So I'm like totally in it myself. Whereas if there is some composer I'm not very familiar with, it's more of like I let the mood kind of sway me, but I'm not even close to knowing every note or any of it. Do you feel like from your side, from the stage as performers, do you feel difference? Or this is completely not even relevant at all in that interaction?
Yeah, there is difference.
Well, it's very interesting when you play for other musicians, like when there are a lot of colleagues in the room. Sometimes you get this feeling that they're just waiting for you to make a mistake, you know.
And it's like this feeling like somebody's watching your fingers this close, like,
Yeah.
okay, she moved this finger, she moved this
Will
finger,
she?
and it's not in your head. You can hear it how they are listening to each little movement. So I think you can tell. But for me, it's even bigger difference, not so much from someone that knows music or doesn't know music, but from people who are used to like listening to longer periods of music and to people who are not used to going to concerts at all. Like when they lose attention completely, you can really feel it. And then it's usually hard to, I mean, it's like the inspiration goes down a little bit. But if you have people who just enjoy it, they have no idea what's going on, but they're just enjoying it, it's great. It's the perfect public, actually.
Sometimes it's a bit of a not a problem, but it's a challenge, you know, to pull some people from the audience into the zone if they're thinking about music too much, like if they think they know, or if they have some fixed ideas about how this should sound. This is sometimes then a challenge for musicians to bring them in, to pull them in, and to make them forget this fixed idea, but to open up for the happening.
Yeah.
It's very.
How do you feel this? How do you feel this expectation, or what do you feel as a performer? What are you feeling on your side?
Well, it's this feeling that I mentioned. It's like somebody's watching you up so closely, like looking behind your shoulder, what you're doing. It feels a little bit like this for me.
Yeah.
I don't know how it's with you.
Yeah, it's like that. Yeah.
But, it's also hard for us. I mean, at least for me, when I'm going to classical concerts, I don't like going much because I have to be in the right mood. Otherwise, I'm just analyzing the whole concert and I'm not enjoying it. And then I find myself like halfway through and I'm like, what am I doing? Like, am I even enjoying? Like, why am I here if I'm just judging?
Okay. This totally, yeah, amazing. This takes me literally to the next question that I always wanted to ask. And this is, to what extent are you actually enjoying the piece? Are you able, after playing these pieces over and over again, knowing every little detail of it, every little nuance, are you even hearing it anymore? Or are you kind of thinking about how you would perform it, or what happens with it after having heard and played it so much? What is your kind of reception of the piece, for example?
I think good music can be played unlimited times. It's if you take, let's say, I don't know, Bach sonata, or you mentioned Brahms concerto, for example, violin concerto. Probably you meant,
yes, right? Yes, exactly.
It's, there are certain pieces that can be played in so many ways because they're written, they offer so much, and I think you mentioned before already that every time you play it, you find something different in it, because you are also different. It's never the same, because we played a rehearsal just a few days ago with a quartet we play with. It's flute and strings, and we play now on Sunday. We play
an
arrangement of Mozart's opera Don Giovanni for this setting. And we played it quite a few times already.
Like this season, at least 10 times.
Yeah, so
like
it gets a bit boring to practice this alone. But then when we play together, it's
So good.
again interesting because everybody offers something, is this interaction. It's like, yeah,
For
like
me,
dancing, it's same, it's maybe the same, moves, but it's a bit different, you offer something different. It's these small details, are sort of like improvisation, it's the same notes, but there's so much between the notes,
For me, it actually gets better and better the more you play it. Like the first performance is, even when you practice like crazy and you're so ready, the second performance is going to be better and the third one is going to be even better. It's like, I don't know, it's like if you're painting this very complex picture and you start with a sketch, okay, let's say that's practicing, and then you color in all the colors and you have like everybody can tell what the image is. But then the next time you come, you paint more details and you get more and more and more detailed, and it's just never ending. So yeah. And then you maybe let it sit, like you say, I'm sick of this piece, I don't want to play it anymore. And you leave it for 2 years and stuff happens in your life and you develop as a human being and you come back and you're like, oh my God, this is so amazing. I have so many fresh ideas. I want to do things completely differently. And yeah.
I think it would be impossible to play just, let's say, just one program all life, because we tend to diversity as human beings, so we always do different things. Like we both also play Baroque instruments, and when you play different things, you get something from that one. It's like eating, you can't eat pizza all the time, but here and there a really good pizza is really nice, so it's always this diversity that we're looking for, and from each piece you get something with what you can use for the other one. It's like a different perspective, right?
And can you go a little deeper and illustrate this for me? Both of you have mentioned like then you stop playing it maybe for 2 years and then you hear it with different ears, you kind of see where you can do something different. Give me an example of what would you do different. I cannot imagine, like, is it in expression? Is it in seeing like a larger piece and kind of playing like a piece of it differently, or what would you do different? How would you explain it to somebody who is just listening to music?
I think there's several aspects. So the first one is like just the basic technical. The weird thing about like instruments is you are constantly developing, you never reach like the limit, so you're always getting better and better if you practice, of course. So if you let it sit for 2 years, that's a lot of progress you can make. Like it's so it's so subtle, but it. So I guess you would decide for some different technical solutions in some places. So this is the complete basic one. And then there's like the phrasing, the ideas, you see some new patterns. It's very complex. So like even the understanding the harmony, like sometimes you would think it means something, but then you realize it's like in a bigger picture or something else. And there's many places open to interpretation as well. So sometimes you feel like this part is meant to be so religious, but then you come back and you're like, no, it's actually just super simple, or like, like it changes depending on yourself. And then, and this inspirational part. So where you are philosophically, where you are mentally, what it means, what you're going through in your life and what you can express through it. So
yeah, for me, it's a lot about the phrasing, the phrase, you develop in understanding the phrase, because in phrase you have, like, you can take a melody and you can dissect it in several parts, and each of these small parts has like a flow of their own, and there's the bigger flow in few parts together, and then there's this bigger picture flow, like the
from
whole
beginning till the end,
the whole phrase, and if you want to do this, you really have to understand all the small parts and combine them, like they build up the whole structure, you know. So it's for me, this is one of the aspects that keeps developing. And the other one is definitely the more profound understanding of I'd say intonation in connection with harmony, because intonation is a very tricky thing, you know. You can measure it with a machine, but it's never really perfect if you do it just by, you know, you cannot really put, you know, a theory. It's not so theoretical. It has to be practical, you know. Of course, there are these Pythagora, you know, like measures, like how they should be, but it's also, you know, if you want to express some emotion, some feeling, sometimes it has to be not out of tune, but it has to be more flat or more sharp, you know. Because sometimes you want to picture this, you know, like sort of like it cuts, you know, like it's like a, you know, it cuts inside the heart, you know, to picture that kind of feeling. Or sometimes it's just like a fluffy fur ball, you know, like this cat, you
know. Every single note has a function, and these functions keep on changing. Like each time it has a different function. So, I mean, theoretically, you can analyze it quite well, but then, okay, you know what it is, but what does it mean?
And this is like,
then you gotta put a meaning to it.
And this is very different for us, for example, because we play instruments that are very flexible in intonation. Yes. Whereas the piano, for example, has fixed intonation.
You can't do it there, yeah.
So it's like it is, yeah. When you play with the piano, it's of course a different story for us. But when we play in a setting without a fixed intonation instrument, it's very much different, you know. It's
really? Are you saying that the whole like group that's kind of non if there is no piano goes through those variations of pitch?
Very much.
You pre-plan this, or you feel it in the moment?
You have to
do it by ear. Yeah,
you have to figure out how you want it, you know.
And you have to know
singing.
You have to know what your position is. Are you the bass? Are you the structure? Because if you are the bass, you gotta keep it like strong and stable, and then the rest of the people have to figure out, am I on top? Am I the middle voice? What's my function? And am I bringing it up? Am I bringing it down? Like, how does it make it sound more open, more closed? Like, it's very complex.
Where can you vary the pitch? When you are at the top, when you're in a bass, then you keep it steady. But in which position are you able to play with it?
So when you're on top, you are trying to, like, I would say you're
a lead on it.
And like to keep it, brilliant, I would say, unless you don't want it brilliant. And then the middle voices are very, very like, this is improv. Like you would have to do it, to tune it a lot.
But from these middle voices, you know, there's this, you know, the essence comes to life, you know.
Yeah, the colors.
The colors. It's that's where the magic really happens, you know. When you put these parts in between, right, then also the top really sits, you know. It's very interesting how music is composed in different periods of time, or was composed. Like if you take, for example, Renaissance. In Renaissance, there were just sort of like lines, you know, several lines that are going together, no harmonic idea. So just lines that are in certain
intervals.
And then in Baroque, they developed this idea of harmony as like in music theory harmony. So you have chords, you have certain combinations of notes that build up these harmonies. This developed then into more. It's like this is mostly built up by thirds, and you know, then you can flip it up, then you get other like this like other intervals also, but mostly it's the thirds. Then later they moved to quarts, so it was like four tones difference, and they build it. Yeah, they build it from that. You know that from jazz, yeah.
Yes, exactly.
And then further on, they let go of that idea of fixed like third or fourth harmony, but they just put notes together in certain, you know, combinations for a certain effect. It was like,
Yeah, this was like Schoenberg and these
Schoenberg, yes.
12 whatever.
Yes,
Can
yes.
you actually, honest answer, can you actually enjoy any of that Schoenberg, like completely out of any harmony pieces? Or do you feel, do you perceive the system, or are you able to enjoy it, or it's just the mind gymnastics?
Well, for me, it was very interesting when I studied in Vienna towards the end of my studies. In one of the subjects, we were analyzing this sort of compositions, like from Schoenberg and stuff. For me, it was very interesting to learn this, because when we analyzed it, then suddenly it started to make much more sense, and it started to be really interesting, and I started to see beauty in it. But I think as a listener, if you don't do this, you know, this part of analyzing and learning about how it's structured, so you can follow it, I think it's not very easy to really enjoy it in the way it's meant. I think it's very rational music, but it offers a certain aesthetical feeling. But for that feeling, you have to go over the piece, like you have to really read the music and analyze it a little bit, and then you can enjoy it. So for that, you have to be, I think you have to be quite educated, if you like in music, if you want to really enjoy these kind of compositions.
So I guess the direct experience. How about for you, Anna?
I don't agree.
No,
I'm sorry.
You don't agree because you didn't study this music in this way, maybe.
Yeah, but if it's a good piece, I'll enjoy it.
Yes,
if it's a bad piece,
course.
I don't.
But we're talking about 12-tone music now. Like if you take Schoenberg's piece for piano, for example, you know.
Do you enjoy it? Do
you
enjoy it or no?
It's a different thing, you know. This area of like
I'll ask that question
music. It's a very wide area, you know. If we talk just about this music that is structured in 12-tone technique, I think you can enjoy it much more if you study it like rationally. But there are different techniques also that do not involve the 12-tone technique, and that one is more experiential. Some parts or some compositions are structured more in this, you know, spherical way. Like you have certain combinations of sounds that create these spheres of sound, and that one is much more, I think, much more enjoyable for anyone.
So I'm gonna ask you if you can, Luca, to actually put some examples of that on Empower House. I would really love to see whether I'm able, or everybody else, to actually connect to that or not. And I want to hear now. Yes, I want to hear, Anna Julia, what's your?
We have, I have a really cool recording that I wanted to share, and I thought maybe it's better we talk first and then I'll post it. I just played, like, it's a week ago now or 2 weeks ago, a premiere of a completely new composition. And it's an interesting thing because it's music for a silent movie. So a Slovenian composer wrote this 1 hour and a half long composition for movie Nosferatu. It's one of the first vampire, it's actually the first vampire movie ever.
Yeah,
So
I've actually seen it. It's by German director, isn't it?
yeah, Murnau.
Mhm.
Murnau, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and this year is a 100-year anniversary. That's why he got commissioned.
Mhm.
And I wanted to post it because, I mean, it's not so, like uplifting music because it's a vampire movie,
Mhm.
but I feel like it has so many moods in it and so many, like, it really takes you somewhere. So this is like, for example, completely modern piece.
Mm.
It's not crazy modern. It's possible to listen to it. It's movie music, but it still has, I mean, it still stretches you a little bit as a listener. It's not completely like
Mhm.
Right.
traditional. So I can post this for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be interesting. And I would like to also have something of that spherical approach, Luca, that you have mentioned, whether we can listen to it or not, but just put it there so that kind of we understand what you're talking about.
Mhm.
When I tried to listen to the 12 notes music, I couldn't. That's like
Yeah.
you know what,
Like
but it's
I
actually
said.
similar with jazz. In jazz, they had this period of free jazz that was okay, well, we are free, we're doing whatever we want, but then it kind of becomes the music for musicians,
Yeah.
more intellectual than
For
actually music for
connoisseurs.
audience. Yes, yes, yes. Interesting. I wanted to just feel how you feel. Are you like so deeply in it that you can enjoy it? Or also for you, it's okay, beautiful, but give me Bach.
Yeah, yeah. One
Yeah.
of the composers, like more contemporary composers, that I'll post something by him, is that I really like, is Ottorino Respighi. For
I
example.
haven't heard of him.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's very fascinating music, and he's really painting with music. There is a very well known piece by him, Pine di Roma.
Mhm.
I'll look up a nice performance and post it. I think most everybody can enjoy that
Mhm.
because it's really like it's more painting by music. It's not so rational. It has a lot of emotion in it.
Beautiful. Well,
As
it started
as
with
opposed to,
Impressionists, isn't it?
excuse me.
This approach started with Impressionists in music, right?
Yeah.
Yes, but it's it in development of music styles, it always goes a little bit like it's rolling a little bit, so it goes on, but they take some parts and they do it in a new way. Like for example, if you take Sergei Prokofiev,
Mhm.
his style was classicistic. So
Yeah.
you have his first symphony, classical symphony, so-called. It's written in a sort of in a classical way,
Yeah.
but in a new,
Mhm.
in a new way. So you always have this,
Mm.
this rolling kind of motion in development of style. And
But
we
then
had this.
fifth and sixth concerts were very challenging to listen.
Yes, yes, because also with the composer it changes.
Yeah, yeah,
If
they
you
go more and
yeah.
more experimental usually.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
they also change. You mentioned Schoenberg, for example. He had many different periods of of life in which he composed music in a very different way. So if you take
Mhm.
Verklärte Nacht, for example, it's one composition of his. You could never say this is Schoenberg because it's not 12 tone.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But then if you take some really extremely rational piece,
Yeah,
it's
okay,
sort of like an experiment.
good. Let's go back. We have just a few more minutes left, and I have so many questions. Maybe we have to do the second part.
Sure.
But this is what I wanted also to ask you, is when you are kind of starting to study a new piece of music or something that you are preparing for the concert, and you open this kind of big, long piece, it's very complex. Are you by now able to hear what you are seeing on those pages? Or you have to actually play it to kind of to understand what's going on a page, if it's a complex page?
Well, depends on the, if it's for a big setting, like a bigger chamber music group. For me, it's hard to, to hear the whole thing if it's more instruments.
But you can get the approximate idea, like
Yeah.
you see what's gonna be going on, like you get the feeling, here we're gonna do this and that, but you don't know, you don't hear it exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, here the people with perfect pitch are in advantage because they just look at it and like, they're singing it to themselves immediately.
Yeah, but then again, these people that have like perfect pitch hearing, they often get in trouble when the pitch is going a bit, when it's changing a bit. So
they're not as flexible.
They can enjoy very much a well-tuned piano, but they can't really enjoy, some music that is played in a natural.
Yeah. Or Baroque music,
Yes.
because it's tuned lower, so
Yeah.
they really suffer then.
Yeah.
Oh, so they feel it off pitch. Oh my God, that's
Yeah,
an
it's
All the
like
time.
everything out of tune. They just can't.
So what's even their perfect pitch? Is it like 440 hertz, or they are tuned to something else?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, it depends. I think it's a matter of habit. Like you get used to certain pitch.
Oh, wow.
For
So
us,
interesting.
for us, it's very flexible because we play both pitches. Like because Baroque is half a note lower.
So
because
it's 415.
It used to be normal to play like that. But also in Baroque, it was not always fixed. It was not fixed at all. You have certain periods of time that were very different, or different areas like Italy, Germany, France. They played in different pitches, and this is very obvious from the instruments that we have left. Maybe not so much the string instruments because you can tune them, but the wind instruments, for example, like flutes, they are as they are. So if they used it in a certain pitch, you see, because you cannot play in another pitch very flexibly. Yeah.
I understand. So I guess I'm gonna have to ask you a last question for this time, and this is just share what is some really interesting next things that you guys are preparing in your like musical career. What is next interesting thing that's coming up for each of you, or maybe for you together?
Yeah. Well, we are preparing several projects at the moment. We will play shortly, like after this Sunday, when we play Don Giovanni with the quartet. We played this already several times. So after that, we are playing next weekend. We are playing folk music with old instruments. And this is something quite new for us, because we used to play mostly just classical music, but then we got involved with a friend that plays Baroque music, but also a lot of folk music.
And he collects all the instruments.
Yes.
He has a room full of it. It's really nice. Yeah.
It's very interesting. We should record something, and then maybe we can record it in. Play. Yeah, maybe. This is very interesting stuff for us. It's opening up new areas of sounds.
But the way it's going to be delivered to the public is also very interesting, because it's in this new cycle that we created together. It's musical gastronomical evenings. So it's shaped in a way that people come and they're welcomed with a little drink and an appetizer, and then they go listen to the first part of music. It takes like 15 to 20 minutes. And then they come back and they have the starters and a nice glass of wine. And then they come back and they listen to another 15 minutes, and then the main course comes, and we finish off with the dessert and hanging out with the musicians. So
it's something
nice.
completely new, because usually people go to concerts and they look from distance on stage. Musicians are only on stage, the public is only in the audience, so there's no real connection happening. We created this concept, in in wish for more contact, in wish for more flexibility. Also, we make jokes in between when we play.
Kind of what we're doing now, hearing about this is
Yeah.
like I had such curiosity about it. It's a wonderful concept. I would love to be a part of that when we are in the same geographical location sometime.
Yeah, when you're in Europe,
Do let us know. We'll
yes.
we'll keep you updated, because now it's a cycle, so it's supposed to be going on.
Yeah.
Like each month or each 2 months, an event.
And then another thing that I'm preparing is a concert with another flutist. So it's 2 flutes and piano, and we will play a lot of really fun music. And then after that, we are playing. You're playing some baroque.
Yeah, a new setting as well. And it's a fun fact, like the day before yesterday, I did, after a long time, the giving and receiving meditation. And after that, I received the call for the setting. And I was like, oh, I should do this more often.
You see, it's working.
Yeah, so it's nice. I'm happy they called, because I don't get as many opportunities to play Baroque violin in Slovenia yet. Yeah, because people mostly don't know that I also do Baroque. So I was really happy that somebody thought of me.
And then,
beautiful.
yeah, it's for both of us, because people didn't know that I play baroque flute either. So we started doing projects now some time ago, and already people start to notice. So this is another area that it's opening up for us. And then later we play, I think that's in March, right? We play another rendition of Mozart's opera Le Nozze di Figaro, so Figaro's Wedding. Again with this quartet. So this is also coming up. We will study the opera and the libretto, and then we figure out what we're going to tell the audience. So what is going on? It's like very interactive.
It's a lot of storytelling. We tell the entire story in between arias, so people can really follow.
Yeah, because it's in opera. There's always lyrics. But with the quartet, we don't have a singer, so we have to explain what the lyrics are about, and then we play the music so they can understand.
Beautiful. I love it. Well, if you can record some of those pieces and share on Empower House, that would be amazing. I would love to hear Don Giovanni quartet version. That would be so amazing if you can hear some of that. So please do, even if it's only audio, that would be really wonderful.
Audio is already possible to hear on.
Yeah, we'll post it. We have the recording of audio.
Yeah. Post it over so that
there's a lot of talking in between in Slovenian, but we.
Yeah.
What is a lot of what?
Of talking in Slovenian in between, so it's not for everyone, but.
Yeah, but you can skip.
You can
skip the talking part.
Right. Wonderful, and thank you so much for this sharing.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Vittorio.
Yeah, this is like such a beautiful peek in mysteries of lives of professional classical musicians. It's amazing, beautiful. I have still so many questions, so I hope we're going to have another opportunity to speak a little more. I had one question that I didn't ask. Maybe you can write a little post about that sometime, and it's about, are you even able to enjoy anything that is like popular music with such serious approach to music? It might all look super superficial. So always wondered about that. So would love to hear that sometime.
Okay.
Yeah.
There will be one post with Ottorino Respighi, or maybe some other spherical.
And Nosferatu and Don Giovanni, and something modern music, pop style.
Yeah. There is good pop still, but it's rare. It's not mainstream.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And we'll see you on Empower House soon.
Yeah,
See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.